Hello my fellow scratchers, in this video we are going to learn about basic code of motion category using interesting example. In this video we will cover how to point towards mouse and how to make a sprite light and how to set the X and Y position of the sprite and many more. So let's get into it. So first, I want the sprite to follow my mouse. So we will go to the events category and drag the when green flag clicked block into the scripting area. Now go to the control categories and drag the forever loop here. So when we click the green flag, it will trigger this forever loop. Now go to the motion categories. Now drag the move block inside the forever loop and I set the move block value to 2. So this makes the sprite move forward the number of pixels you enter here. Now drag the point towards block and show option mouse pointer. Now before running a program, let me explain how this works. So when we click the green flag, it will trigger this forever loop. Then the sprite will point towards my mouse pointer and it will move 2 steps forward. Now let's run a program. As you can see guys, the sprite follows my mouse. Now before building further, let's expand the stage and set the direction back to 90 and the XY position to 0, 0. Now let's shrink our stage. Now I want the sprite to glide to a random position. So let's do it. So we will delete everything inside the forever loop and replace it with the glide seconds to random position. Select the option random position and set the value to 1. So it will take 1 second for a sprite to glide to a random position on the stage. Now let's run the program. As you can see guys, the sprite glides to a random position on the stage for 1 second. And because of the forever loop, it keeps on gliding. Now let's move on to the set X to block and replace it with the glide block. And we will set the X position to the mouse X, which is my mouse X position. Now let's initially set the Y position of the sprite to -90. Now let's run our program. As you can see guys, as my mouse moves left to right, the sprite moves left to right also. Now let's look at another script. So we will delete everything inside the forever loop and replace it with the set Y to block. Now go to the sensing categories and drag the mouse Y block inside the set Y block. This is similar to the block in the set X to block that I have explained. So let's set the X position initially to 0. Now let's run our program. As I move my mouse up and down, the sprite moves up and down. Now delete everything inside the forever loop and replace it with the go to XY block. And we will set the X position of the sprite back to 0, 0. Now set the X value to mouse X, which is my mouse X position, and replace the Y position with my mouse Y. So this is my Y position. As you can see guys, the sprite goes to my mouse. Now I want the sprite to go to a random position on the stage. So we will delete everything inside the forever loop and replace it with the go to block and select the option random position. So with this, your sprite will go to the random position on the stage. So let's run our program. As you can see guys, it goes to a random position on the stage. Now I want the sprite to go to my mouse pointer. So we will just select the option mouse pointer. Now let's run a program. As you can see guys, the sprite goes to my mouse pointer. Now I want the sprite to ask the X position and then go to that X position that the user has entered. So let's do it. So we will replace this go to mouse pointer block with the ask and wait block. So first the sprite will ask the X position. Now go to the motion categories and drag the set X to block here. Now go to the sensing categories and we will set the X to answer, which means that the value that the user has given us, it will set its X axis to that. Now before running a program, let's set the X and Y position initially to 0, 0. Now let's run our program. As you can see guys, first it asks me the X position. So for example, I enter the number 50. As you can see guys, the sprite sets its X axis to 50. Now for example, I set it to minus 90. Now we will click this tick button. As you can see guys, the sprite sets its X axis to minus 90. Now I want the sprite to ask the Y position and then go to it. So we will just delete this set X to block and replace it with the set Y to block. And drag the answer block here. Now set the X position back to 0. And it will ask the Y position of the sprite. Now let's run our program. As you can see, the sprite asks me the Y position and then for example, I set the Y position to 180. As you can see guys, now our sprite is up there. Now let's say we set it to minus 10. As you can see guys, the Y position of the sprite is minus 10. Now I want the sprite to move in loudness steps. So we will shrink the stage and we will delete everything inside the forever loop and replace it with the move block. Now go to the sensing category and drag the loudness block inside the move. This loudness block checks the noise that is coming from my mic. As you can see guys, when I check this box, it tells me the loudness. Now let's uncheck it. So we will go to the motion categories and drag the go to XY block here. And we will set here 0 and the X position to minus 200. I have entered these values so the sprite can start from the edge of the stage. Now let's run our program. So for example, when I run the program, I will say go. So we will click the green flag. Go. As you can see guys, when I said something, it moved faster. Now there is another way to move your sprite by X. So we will replace this move block with the set X to block. And we will set the X position to X position plus 1. Now I will explain how this program runs. So when we click the green flag, it will go to this position and then it will trigger this forever loop. And then it will set the X axis to X position plus 1. Which means if our current X position is 10, then it will add it by 1 and it will set X to that current X position plus 1. So it will keep on moving 1 steps. Now let's run our program. As you can see guys, the sprite changes its X position. You can also change it faster by entering the value, let's say 3. As you can see guys, the sprite changes its X position faster. As always, thank you so much for watching my video. If you want to learn about an interesting sort of game in which enemies chases another sprite, then check out my video of how to make enemy that chases another sprite. I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys and take care.